Hello, hello, hello. It's Coach Paula. Welcome to Titration Talks for June of 2026. Our theme this month is rules that release, not restrain. And so we are at the intersection of order and momentum. And so I want us to talk about rules. Um, I want to do this in an excellent manner. Excellence. And so most people, when they think freedom, they think about not having rules, right? They think that freedom comes from not having rules and having fewer rules. But I tell you of a truth, as I age and I get older, I begin to realize more and more that freedom often comes from having better rules, not having any rules. And so every day we spend so much energy trying to decide things that, quite honestly, have already been decided. What am I going to eat? What time am I going to bed? Am I going to answer this text? Am I going to check social media? Am I going to engage in this argument? Like, we kind of call that freedom, like having the ability to do those things. But to be honest, it's really just decision fatigue wearing a costume of freedom because it's really not freedom. And so I think the concept of what we need to talk about is, you know, our decision making and the rules, having rules of life. And we've talked about rule of life. I think that was our theme for, I think it was last month. And so I want to introduce this concept of some rules of life and how they impact. So, for instance, um, we have a releasing rule. A releasing rule is simply a pre-decision that's ultimately rooted in love. You've made some decisions, you've thought about it, and we have this releasing rule. It's not really discipline, it's not really punishment, it's not even control. It is ultimately love. So let me give you an example. Like, Coach Paula, what are you talking about? So you have a morning routine, and around your morning routine, you set an intention, you have a rule, and then you reduce friction around that rule. So, for instance, I don't decide every morning. This is hopeful speaking because I still struggle with this, y'all. I'm just being honest. I don't decide every morning whether or not I'm going to drink water. That's my goal and objective. That decision has already been made because when I get up in the morning, I want to drink some water before I have my coffee. So when I set the rule, and I live by that rule, it releases me from having to negotiate with myself. Like, oh, am I going to drink some water? Oh, am I going to get up and, you know, do this or do that? No, if I establish a rule and I honor the rule, then I live by it. Same thing with your health. Like I said, the rule before coffee, or having the water before coffee, then I have less mental energy trying to decide, oh, am I going to drink some water or not? No, you're going to drink some water before you have your coffee in the morning. That's your rule, and you're going to honor it. Second example, you might have some emotional boundaries. So you might say, um, I don't make major decisions when I'm, emotionally active or emotionally engaged. And so as a result, that's because I value wisdom. I value wisdom as a life principle. I value wisdom as my approach to life. So as a result, I'm making this rule that I'm not making any major decisions when I'm angry or when I'm afraid, I'm lonely, I'm exhausted, or I'm tired or I'm grieving. And so that's my value, the wisdom. That's my rule, honoring decisions and not making them when I'm fatigued. And the result of that is that I don't, or I have less regret. I won't say I eliminate regret, but I have less regret because I'm not making bad decisions or decisions that are more emotionally based. Let me give you one last example, then we'll move forward. And so, um, yeah, so we have scroll, we have like, digital consumption. All right, we say we're gonna get on Facebook and check one thing. And something that maybe should have taken us 20 minutes. Next thing we know, we've gone down a rabbit hole and it's a whole hour that we've been on social media. And so if we make a rule that we're not going to do any social media before we do purpose, or we set a rule that I'm not going to um, create things or do things before I consume, right? I'm gonna create things before I consume. So I'm not gonna be a consumer of social media and social ills and all those things. I'm gonna be purposeful and do the things I need to do first. Because like you said, you can be caught up in that rabbit hole and be on social media for an hour and you don't even realize it. So the result of stuff like that is that you're paying attention to your priorities and you're staying aligned with your priorities. And so that's what I mean by a releasing rule. And so um, in the releasing rule, it basically has some basic elements. It's simple. It's something that's easy to remember. We're not overwhelming ourselves with it. It's something that's repeatable because it works consistently. It's something that is protective because it's safeguarding us about or safeguarding us around our values. And it's also rooted in love because it's serving your future self. It's serving a version of you that you want to maintain. And so when we have decisions and we have things to make in life, we look at our rules and we say, okay, what is this rule protecting? Because every good rule ultimately is protecting something, our peace, our health, our time, our relationships, our family, our focus, right? And so it's important that I'm talking about these releasing rules because the contrast is something called a controlling rule. And so controlling rules, in contrast, they protect your image and how you're perceived versus a releasing rule protects your values. Or a controlling rule is, you know, I can never miss a workout. It brings kind of shame. Versus a releasing rule says, I honor my body every day. Still getting to the same result. So I honor my body every day. So as a result, I do the workout. But if I just say my controlling rule is, oh, I can never miss a workout, then you put shame and pressure on yourself to do something. And so that's the difference. The controlling rule is going to bring shame, but the releasing rule is going to create some stewardship for you. So in your manual this month, we talked about the My Held blueprint. And so it was important for us to look at those things that we hold dear to us and that are holding us as well. And so I want to pull up the um, the blueprint so that we can walk through it because I know you guys have to complete it and it might be challenging without having a perspective. So let me pull this up. See if I can do this. Okay, so this is my hell blueprint, right? And so what you do within this blueprint is you identify one part of your life that you're no longer carrying alone. So I want to step through these five areas, and I want you to do your blueprint along with me because I'm trying to help you out on your assignment. You may need to pause the video if necessary, but as I'm going through these five key points, um, I'm going to share some things from a personal level as it results to me. So let's see, the area being held. One part of your life that you're no longer carrying alone. And so for me, as I'm filling this out for this one area, because you can do this across multiple areas in your life, the area that I am designing support for is my business, Hollis Mastermind Group, which supports PH Academy and all the other coaching and things that I do. And so the effort that's being released, what currently requires repeated deciding, remembering, or managing. And so for me, a lot of times the effort that I'm releasing is the pressure that I often feel to constantly create something new, like some new post or some new, framework or different things like, oh my gosh, my students are going to need this, or oh gosh, I need to do that. So I create, I create this pressure of creating something new, but I want to release that. I want to release that pressure to feel like I have to create something new. So what does that look like for me? I'm going to make an agreement with myself. And that agreement, this third part, is a decision that is already made. So I don't have to keep making the decision. I think that's important because we decide something and then we don't honor it, and then we keep looping on the same decision. Oh, I say I want to work out, but then when it's time to get up and go to the gym, I circle. No, if I'm going to be committed to this, then I need to be committed to this. And so I make an agreement with myself. So what does that look like for me in my business? Well, I've just recently gotten to the point where, you know, I'm going to, instead of creating all the time, I'm going to curate. There's a difference. So I don't want to be a content creator. I want to be a content curator where I take an inventory of what I already have and give it another look and see how I can take what I already have and either use it differently or create or do something different with it because I already have it. It's already been given to me. So I'm going to build not from new, I'm going to build from what already exists. So that's an agreement I want to make with myself. Take an inventory before I build something new, curate from existing before I create something new. The support signal, how I recognize that this agreement is holding me. And so this is like your check and balance to figure out, okay, is this working or is this not working? So for me in my business, one way that I know I'm being supported is I feel less rushed. I don't feel that pressure or that, need to create. And then what ends up happening is I finish more. I'm more productive because I'm not stuck in pressure to deliver, but I'm just simply delivering as an output. Um, and so that's kind of like my support signal to make sure, yep, girl, you're on the right track. You're doing the right thing here. And then lastly, what is my return point? What I do when this slips. Because let's just be honest, things are going to come up, you're going to slip, you're going to feel like, you're going to drift a little bit. Drift is inevitable. The key is to recognize it and to recalibrate and get back on point. And so when the return point is what do I do when it slips without shame? We're not guilting ourselves, right? We're not operating in guilt or shame. So for me, in my business, an example I'm sharing here, my return point is when I feel pressure to create something or new or to do something new, I'm going to return to my existing body of work. I have quite a body of work. And so I'm going to return back to that before I start something else. So pause and realign, right? And so what we do, or we do our PSAs, pause, see, align. And so I'm going to pause, I'm going to see what I have, and then I'm going to align my actions accordingly. Because 9 times out of 10, everything I need has really already been provided, and I really have it all already. So if I pause, if I see, and then I align, I can take and curate from what exists and honor my held life blueprint. So I hope by me stepping through what this looks like for me in my business, I hope it gives you some insight into what that might look like for you. Maybe it's in health and wellness. I know I can do this from a health and wellness perspective in my journey to be more healthy and drink more water and exercise more. Like I can create, a health life blueprint around that. And so I strongly encourage you to pick whatever your held life component is and to sit quietly and to really ponder and create a blueprint because that blueprint then helps you to support you, not to control you, but to support you and to hold you in this effort. And so that's what titration is all about. Titration from that whole scientific way. Remember, it's making sure you get the right combination of something. Because if you have too much, it's not good. If you don't have enough, you might not get the outcome that you want as well. And so that's the point of this whole exercise and the rules. I can stop sharing this. And the rules is to make sure that ultimately we are honoring what we should be honoring. And so this whole rules that release, we want to be released and not restrained. So we want releasing rules, not controlling rules, rules that support us and don't shame us. And ultimately, our rules are truly based in our pre-decisions. So when we make our pre-decisions, we honor what we said we were going to do. That's intention on blast, right? And so we honor that, and then we move forward in that in our life. That is how we take our rule of life and we make it a held life blueprint. So I hope something I said has shifted your energy, awakened your potential, and that you will seriously consider your held life blueprint in this module of order and momentum. Thanks so much for joining me for Titration Talks. Have a great day.